Today we're going to give you a little demonstration on how to comb out and groom the Samoyed puppy and an adult dog. What I want you to look at is the main grooming equipment, slicker brush. I use a Chris Christensen, that's the best. This is your coarse type comb. This is also a Chris Christensen comb. Has wide teeth. And then this is a finish comb. They call it, basic name for it is Belgium comb. It has some finer teeth and a little bit wider teeth. And a slicker brush. Pin brush. This is a nail grinder. They usually can come in just a long one. There's plug-ins and there's battery ones. This is distilled water. This is kind of a slicking type material or spray. It can be a quicker slicker, or show sheen works real well to help relax the hair a bit. Okay, you need a grooming table, a grooming arm with a noose. This is something extra. It's called a haunch holder. It works wonderfully to keep your dog in place while you're brushing and blowing the dog. Keeps them from sitting down and turning around. Not a necessity, but for me it is. Another must if you're going to do your own grooming is a blow dryer. This is a Canine 3. There's several other good models on the market. I'm going to show you how to comb a puppy first, and then we'll move on to the adult dog. Okay, the first thing I do with my dogs is I use the blow dryer on them. This blows all loose hair and dirt off the dog. Puppies don't like it. They will get used to it, but they're not going to be happy at first with a blow dryer. The next thing to do after you've blown the dirt and loose hair off, if you don't have a blow dryer, I guess you can just go and start brushing. So with your slicker brush, you can kind of just brush the pup over like this. Just to knock more debris off. Good girl. What a good girl. What a good girl. And then I'm going to go into line brushing. So to line brush, stand baby, with your hand, I tend to start at the back of the leg. And I start brushing away from what I'm got my hand at. So see the line? That is why it's called line brushing. It's the same with a comb, line combing. When you line brush and line comb, you get all the way down to the skin and pull out, which separates the hair and gets all the loose hair out. You go to your all systems comb, which is the fine comb. This is for a pup. With the adults, I go next to the bigger comb. This is line combing. So you can see the difference from where it's been brushed and where it hasn't been brushed, as in here. That dirt coming up off that's next to her skin. So this is not what you want to do, other than initially brushing the dog all over. With a Sammy, you brush up, brush back. Most people do this. You're not getting down there and brushing the hair from the skin out if you're just brushing the top of the coat. You have to get up under it. You're not hurting them. What hurts the dog is if you let it go and then try to get mats and excess hair out that have gotten packed in there, and that is uncomfortable and unpleasant for the dog. So if you keep your brushing up, your grooming up, it takes a very short amount of time. You have your dog looking really nice and cleaned up. You can take a pretty wet, dirty looking Sammy and with a good brushing and blow drying if you have one, the dog will look almost brand new. I use the fine point comb to comb the back of the hocks, because that tends to get packed in there pretty easy because they're sitting down on it. You see, this is not hurting the dog, even though it looks like I'm kind of pulling, and I am a little bit, but it's still not hurting the dog. The fine comb also works for the back of the elbows, so you kind of put it in like this and comb straight out. It's all right. Okay, and then when you switch to the nail grinder, okay.
Okay.
So this is a comb out with a puppy. This is pre-bath. She will look much nicer when she has a bath. But just brushing her up, cleaned her up and fluffed her up, and she looks somewhat presentable. And you always want to do this before you bathe the dog. Completely brush out and comb them out before they go into the tub. So here is our puppy that got combed out and brushed earlier, and she's had her bath and she's been dried. So now we're going to finish her, and I'm going to use my Shoshin. Just kind of brush it in all over. Okay, we've done our line brushing with the slicker brush, which only took a couple of minutes. Just going to go back over her with the comb. Still getting a little bit of hair out. That was loose in her coat. So, as you can see, this doesn't hurt the puppy, even though I'm brushing and combing vigorously. If it hurt her, she would be hollering and protesting greatly. So this gets all the little, this finish comb. This is the Belgium type comb. And it gets any little knots out, any loose hairs that are still in her coat. A couple more. So once I've gone over her with the comb, the brush and the comb. Then I'll just kind of take the comb and just do a little fluff up. Yes, I know. Yes. That's put your comb in and just. Oh, I'm sorry. So all the pre-grooming on this dog before the bath made this just a couple minute job to finish her up and have her looking all pretty, clean, and combed out. Good girl. Yes, what a good girl. What a good girl. Yes. Yes, what a good girl. Yes. Yes. Another nice thing to you can teach your dog to do, and you want to start at this age, which will help with your grooming, is to teach the dog to lay down on its side. This puppy has not had that done. There. Stop, stop. Good girl. Good girl. You just teach the dog to lay down at its side. Praise him. Good girl. Don't try to start grooming or anything. Just pet. And then slowly introduce brushing. What a good girl. That'll help you get underneath the dog's side. Might be a little easier on you to do that. Oh, yes. Good. Oh, what a good girl. What a good girl. So I'm not going vigorously working on her because she's not used to it, laying down. But we'll get there. Adult that is going to get a comb out and a bath. He's on the grooming table, and we're going to put him in the haunch holder. Stand. And the very first thing we are going to do with him is blow him out to get all the loose hair and dirt out of him. Spray him with distilled water. I'm going to use my pin brush. Just kind of brush that. So the pin brush is what I like to use on the tail. It's a sensitive area. So just start brushing. To use on his tail or any place where the hair is extra clumpy, like in here. The tail is my show sheen, or another product is called Quicker Slicker. Spray it on here. Brush it in. see I'm working quickly and efficiently. It's not hurting the dog at all. They're not going to break. And if they're used to being brushed, they will tolerate it very nicely. And I will go to my big comb, and same kind of thing as line combing. You want to go down to the skin and comb out. Do it in sections. I have a nice combed out tail. Not clumpy anymore. And you want to go back to your slicker brush and start your line comb brushing. Again, hold the hair and start working in a section. This dog is losing coat. It's starting to comb out. This is what you want to get out of there. All that loose hair. Then you go back over it with your comb. Hold the hair away. So we've been working on this dog about 30 to 40 minutes. He's starting to lose coat. So the underneath coat is loosening up, so that makes it even a bigger job than if he wasn't losing coat. As you can see, it just keeps coming. So he's been gone over with the big comb. And the hardest part to groom, comb out, is the back of the dog's neck here and the shoulders. The last to lose coat. It seems to be the hardest to get in there and get to. So I'm going over him with the big comb again. You can see all that undercoat down there. I can't even see the skin at this point, but you can see the coat coming out. It's all right. Comb. Then I will go back over with my finer comb. We're still line combing. Coming up underneath. And doing it in sections. You just want to get the white tips off. So here's the boy after a comb out, which took quite a while, and he could actually be combed even more. He's losing undercoat, so it's a pretty big job with a male. And he's ready for the tub. This is the hair we just combed out of this dog. That's all undercoat. So just imagine if you had put the dog in the tub and bathed him with all this undercoat in there, what would have happened is this whole thing would have become one big mat. And it would have been a nightmare to remove it. So always, always comb your dog out, brush and comb, whatever it takes, blow it to get all that hair out before the dog goes into the tub. Okay, here's our boy in the tub, raised tub. He is hooked up so that with a choke chain. This is a Fur Saver collar, which is a good, and a double-ended snap. This contraption is a hydro surge. Of course, most people don't have those, so you'll just be using a sprayer such as this. With a hydro surge, you fill okay, if you are using a hydro surge, which some of your groomers would be, the water's filled partly in the tub, and then you use a more high-powered sprayer to spray the dog down and get them wet. Samoyeds have a very water-resistant coat, so it is difficult to get them wet enough. To apply the shampoo. And then I'm going to use a scrubber. This is soft rubber, and here's another one with shorter little scrubbies on it. So this really gets in here, saves your fingers, and you just start, just like yourself, just start scrubbing the dog. Probably feels good. You can see it foams up the shampoo real nicely. Really well on the legs and feet. It's got the shorter nodules on it. A little greasy right here in front of the ear. So if you're concerned about getting water in the ear, put some cotton balls down the ear, like that. Kind of wet the ear down so it does not running into the ear. Put my shampoo. Kind of wash that real good. If they're extra greasy, you can use something like Dawn or a degreasing shampoo. Get that greasiness away from the ear. Okay, we're doing our second shampoo now. The first shampoo, because he is shedding coat, was a de-shedding shampoo, which would help loosen up the hair even more to get it out. This is actually a whitening shampoo I'm putting on him right now. And he was cream rinse. Normally, if you were going to be showing the dog, you would not necessarily put cream rinse on the dog. It might make the coat too soft. But he's not going to a show, so he got a cream rinse. And now I'm going to rinse it off. All bathed and rinsed, back on the grooming table, big bath towel, and just dry him off as best you can. The next step is to take the blow dryer and just blow the water all off, all over. Get as much water out, blowing out of his coat as you can, and then he'll start drying. So before I start blow drying, I like to have a towel down on the table, because once you start blowing all that water out of the coat, it's going to soak into this towel. and he won't be standing in a puddle. So this is our boy, all bathed and dried. And what we're going to do now is just a finish brush and comb out on him. And he will be done. Whole scenario again of brushing and combing. I'm going to spray him. I'm going to use my Show Sheen. Now, if I was combing him out, doing a finished comb for the show ring, I would not use the Show Sheen. I would just use distilled water. So just kind of brush it out. Brush it in, I should say. Then go back to the line brushing. Much easier this time around now that undercoat, or a lot of the undercoat, is combed out. So to this point, in grooming this dog, because he is losing coat and it took a lot longer, we have about 3.5 hours invested in this dog's grooming. As you can see, there's still more hair coming out, but it's much easier to get out now because it was brushed before the bath, and the hair has been loosened up by the warm water and the de-shedding shampoo. So what else is loose in there is going to come out much easier. Okay, repeat with the comb. You can actually see I'm taking a bit bigger section that I can cover now that it isn't got so much packed in loose hair that needs to be combed out. It's much easier to get your comb through. So a common place to get mats on a Samoyed is right in this area behind the ears. They have finer hair there, so it will tend to get mats. Sometimes you can have to feel them to find them. So here's one right here. So I'm going to take my fine tooth comb and work that mat out. Unless you know what you're doing, do not take a scissors and try and cut it out. You may cut the dog's skin. So they're kind of a little sensitive behind the ears there. It's easy to make pull. But right around the head, you want to use your fine tooth comb. I use my All Systems, and the finer part of it to comb around the ears and the head. And get all those little knots and hairs out that tend to collect around that area. Rebrushed and recombed him. I'm doing one last hitting him with the blower to get any loose hairs that are hanging in his coat and blow them out. So here's our finished dog. Combed out, bathed, brushed, and good until the next time. So this dog took 4 hours. And as you can see, I combed pretty fast and efficiently, and it still took 4 hours to do this dog. This is a male, and they have a heavier, thicker coat in many cases. A female would probably take half the time, and it would take less time if he hadn't been starting to lose his coat, where he had a lot of loose hair that had to be combed out of it. So unless you have the time to learn how to do this properly, to devote to grooming your own Sammy, I suggest you take him to a professional groomer. And the one thing to remember about a professional groomer, you interview them ahead of time. You make sure they know how to comb and brush out a double-coated breed. You instruct them there's to be no clipping done with the clippers on the dog. And they can only neaten up around the feet with the scissors. Now if I was getting him ready for a show, I would neaten up his hocks and his feet with the thinning shears. But since he's not going to a show and his feet aren't scraggy or anything, I'm just going to forgo that today.